thank you for having me. Thank you for the interest in this work. We are now trying to find ways to enable private data analysis for external users. Just to give you a context on our current situation here in Brazil right now. We now have mainly three methods of information extraction that it's available for our external users. The most simplest one is in the base of this pyramid, which is an user interface, kind of friendly for producing cross tabulations. So the user just needs to select variables and everything happens kind of magically. So the user don't need to have any special knowledge on analysis or statistical analysis tools. There is, of course, traditional SDC methods applied to the outputs. And there's this is a alternative with very limited utility, but it's public available and very easy to access and to use. The alternative number 2 is the online microdata or public use files, which also public available through the internet, so very easy to access. But in this case, the user needs to have some knowledge of any analysis tool, because these we're talking about CSV files, so they need to know how to properly import it and work with it. And of course, also SDC methods are applied to those files, and the utility is higher than, of course, for the cross tabulations user interface, but it's very limited in some cases as well, because we actually use or adopt a very conservative statistical disclosure control process. And the option number 1 is the secure access facility, where the user can have maximum utility, even work with identified data, which means that they can join their own data sets and things like this. But they need to go there in person, and the access is kind of bureaucratic, so very cost and time consuming. And but actually we believe that there is a gap between the options 1 and 2, because it's way easier to use the option 2 and to access the option 2, but the utility is really different between those two options. And this can get a little worse, because for economic surveys, we do not disclose any kind of online microdata or public use file. So the user then needs to access this kind of information. They have more tough scenario. And in these situations, there are two more alternatives, which are first agreements or a term of commitment, but this is kind of more aimed to institutions. And the second alternative is those what we call special requests. This is kind of more like work over the external users, mainly researchers, found out and adopt, which is since we are governmental agents, we must provide information upon request. Any citizen can request an information that we own, and as long as there is no risk privacy or things like this, we must disclose the requested information. So a lot of researchers use this channel to have access to cross tabulations that they can find or they can produce through our user interface due to the limited utility of it. So this is kind of an important distortion in our disclosure process, and this is let's say this alternative is very overwhelming for the internal teams that needs to deal with this kind of request. Just to mention briefly the fundamental principles of official statistics, we need to deal of all of them, but in this context, The first and sixth one are very important. We need to provide as much access to information as we can and guarantee confidentiality, and that this information used only for statistical purposes. But at least in Brazil, legislation does not prevent access to sensitive data. But we are aiming more to this kind of responsible use of data, or I mean, not being just legally compliant, but ethical, legitimate, and fair as well. And well, we expected to do that through ways that allow this structure relevant information from sensitive data, preserving the privacy. This is something that we discuss a lot here, right? And what we are trying to do is use a solution based on PySift to reach this goal. It's basic infrastructure which allows external users to access a mock version of our dataset and explore it as they will. And they can produce Python code to output wherever they need, wherever they want. So they build the code from the scratch, submit it to us. We audit this code. If it's compliant with our rules and privacy and everything, we execute that code and release the output of it to back to the data science or external user. And actually, this process is not necessarily new, because we most of the alternatives I mentioned, they already have this kind of a process where the external user or researcher needs to submit a request, a project, or something alike, wait for some kind of validation process, and receive the output of it sometime afterwards. Of course, we are trying to implement this solution in a very careful way. So this is taking place in a 4-level strategy. The level 0 was no risk setup, where we were working with only public data, doing full manual audit process, and working with isolated server. We are now on level 1, working with private data, but still manual audit and isolated server. And we expected in the near future to go to level 3, where we are working with not just private data, but we have some kind of automatic audit process. Of course, that we believe that there may be exceptions in this automatic process. Some more specialized or specific request may need to be manually audited, but we expect that most of the requests can be automatically released or reviewed. And of course, the online server to make all of these ready to scale. This is our goal in the near future. And we expected that a solution like this can help us to reduce or even close this gap, offering an alternative to the external users, which is accessible through the internet. They don't need to go in person anywhere, but offers a way higher utility than we can provide through our public use files with traditional statistical disclosure control methods. Right now, we are working in a proof of concept based on the 2017 Brazilian agricultural census data. This is a very important data set for us at IBGE in Brazil. It's a very important aspect of our economy, and it's related to environmental and climate issues. And there is no public available microdata. So this is an information that researchers are really interested in, but it's not really easy to access or to work with it because of privacy issues. And we reproduced a study that was done by the Brazilian Agricultural Research Corporation in partnership with IBGE and other Brazilian agents. For this study to take place, it was necessary to sign a term of commitment, which was a very bureaucratic process and took few months to happen. And the output the researchers were looking for were just this kind of special cross-tabulation, or I mean cross-tabulations that were not available in our user interface. And even after the term of commitment was signed, it took us more than 2 months to release the output. So we expect with a solution like this one based on PySilt to reduce this time. For now, we can reduce it for weeks in our totally manual process. But when this is fully implemented, maybe hours, or depending on the request, if it were simple requests, and we can do this automatic audition process, maybe this can happen in real time for the external user, of course, depending on the request and privacy constraints. A few highlights. The first one is that this solution allows us to combine traditional statistical disclosure control methods with privacy enhancing technologies, which is great for us to work with a more smooth transition. Offers flexibility on the utility and privacy trade-off. There are a lot of benefits for external users, not just for the ease of access, but since all the computing process takes place in our own servers for security reasons, but anyway, the user don't need to have any kind of computer power locally available. The computer is, they may have access for a merely terminal that have internet access. We expected this to unburden internal teams, reducing the demand on those kind of special requests and things like this. And also, we expected it to foster research and fact-checking. On the downsides, the user needs to know Python, how to code in Python. This is not exactly a problem. This is a very widespread language, and we are here talking about probably a more specialized user, like researchers and this kind of audience. Other aspect is that we need to maintain a more complex infrastructure. This is kind of challenging, but the most challenging aspect or topic is to adapt our current internal process. This is something that is taking a lot of time and discussions, but anyways, we need to do this in a careful and secure way, right? And just to conclude, mention that not just those two principles, but since we saw, I guess, like 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, the presentation from Curtis of the work they are done with Statistics Canada. This solution allows us to create a network of international or even national institutions. So I think that can touch into more principles, which are the national coordination and international cooperation. Well, that is the end of my presentation. Maybe if you have any questions, or I can give you a quick overview on the interface, but actually there's nothing really special about it. It's just a Jupyter notebook. But anyways, wherever you think it's more interesting. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Augusto. I enjoyed seeing this presentation for the second time. So that's amazing. I'll open the floor to anyone who might have any questions. Or if not, I might take chair's privilege in asking one. I'm going to do it anyway, even though I've seen Ronald's hand. One thing I was wondering, I guess we've seen this and obviously Curtis's work the other week, and also the work that Raphael presented on what they've been doing in Switzerland as well, which all feels like kind of good evidence that sort of these technologies that we talk about a lot, like, can actually work, and, can be viable and all that kind of stuff. I feel like one thing we were digging into when we were sort of doing that process, we were building out that sort of stakeholder mapping exercise. I guess we were kind of talking through, who are the different stakeholders that need to be convinced for these kind of projects. I was kind of wondering if you had any reflections on that from your side in terms of like how you've maybe, I don't know, maybe had to manage some of those conversations internally to like be able to get approval to, start experimenting with this kind of thing.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Dave. Actually, this is quite challenging. We are, well, National Statistical Office are famous for being very traditional in methodological tradition, but I guess here in IBGE we are above the average on this aspect. So it's raise awareness on the importance of this kind of experiment was really tough in the beginning. It's kind of going either now, but yeah, to convince the decision makers and the high level decision makers was the tougher process. Many of them believe that this is kind of solved problem. This since we have plenty of alternatives for users to access data, many of them that are not really involved in the discussions understand that this problem is solved, but this is not true. There are a lot of users that struggle a lot and even give up to use our data. So I guess, yeah, this is maybe for me, from where I see, this is the most challenging aspect that we are doing right now.
Great, Ronald.
Yes, thanks, Augusto, for a very nice presentation. Yeah, given the fact that you chose this topic of the agricultural census, so I've been working with some other people in Brazil also on the geospatial side, right, on that kind of information with remote sensing for agricultural statistics. How does that figure into this? So does it more complicate matters? Because from I guess from the census data, you're looking at statistics and indicators. If you overlay this with geospatial information and the mapping information you have on this, is this making things more complicated? Was that something that you had to take into account? Is there anything you could say on that level? Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely complicates everything because we needed to take that aspect in consideration when assessing privacy risks and everything. Actually, we right now have a method to control or to access privacy risk in terms of georeference information, not just for the agricultural census, but for all of them. We are working on ways to integrate this with what we're doing. We have the what they call the minimal statistical regions, which are like the smallest statistical geospatial region we can offer information on. This is a work done by our geoscience division, but we are work closely with them to put both in together. And actually, Samala here is our, how can I say, leader on this work. I don't know, Samala, do you want to add anything to it? Any special comment or anything?
I don't know the name of the minimal regions, but the main idea is to show the statistics through these regions, these minimal regions. The minimal units in these regions is 10 establishments, 10 units. So in Brazil, we have a huge territory. So there are many challenges because we have biomes in English, biomes. Many territorial differences, not only geographical differences. territorial differences refer to natural differences. So the users can be interested in these territorial differences. So it's because it's very, very challenging to show these statistics by these units too.
Yeah, thank you, Samula. We're trying to somehow make this automatic somehow to kind of cover all the requests that we receive. And yeah, and she's right. It is really, really challenging. But for example, if you are use like a differential privacy and reduce the precision or the information inside of kind of a small region like this, maybe you can disclose more or offer a more detailed region, things like this. This is the kind of study we are experimenting right now.
Yeah, thanks. And I know that Raphael was also doing something in Switzerland on a georeference data. So maybe something for the future to pick up with the group, specifically georeference data, because I think integration of statistics and geospatial information is high on our agenda. And I think to have some insights on use of privacy preserving techniques for georeference data, I think it would be a good topic. Thanks.
Thanks. I know we're at time, but if people don't have to drop, Curtis, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, hopefully it's a quick one. I was just curious, Augusto, about the code review feature you mentioned in phase 2 and 3, like just what that entails. Is it security scanning or some other kind of process?
We didn't really dive into these last steps, but for this, before putting the servers online, we expected to really have some kind of security scan, and we have a security information committee working on the ways that we can put these servers online. That would be this is the third step on my presentation, but anyways. And for the automatic process, we will need to kind of map the most common requests for us to, I mean, that's the strategy we are thinking of right now. So as I said, we are not really focused on this aspect, but yeah, that's one problem, because we are talking about two very different aspects that we need to take care of, right? We need the automatic auditing process is merely a methodological, statistical, and maybe computing process. And when we are talking about the servers going online, we are mainly talking about IT security, so different teams and different knowledge. But anyways, yeah, that's I don't really have any deep information on this right now, but I hope to have that for you in a very, very near future.
Got it. I think a lot of NSOs are having this discussion. I was just curious if anyone has solved it already. Thanks, Augusto.
Thank you for the question, Curtis.
Awesome. I think we are probably about there for today. Thanks again, Augusto, for the presentation. I'm sure as well this will be making its way into the case study repository at some point.